and of course, all the wonderful participants who have gathered for the finals of our maiden edition of JCCL's LexConnect. Today, for the other participants there,
Yes, they have joined in.
so I will just brief you about the timings and the rules of the debate competition. For the finals of the debate competition, each participant would be given 5 minutes to make their respective statements and 2 minutes for their rebuttal. After which the opponent would make his or her statement, which would come down to 14 minutes per team.
Are there negative marks for exceeding time?
So it's at your discretion. If they exceed the times, we usually stop them.
Okay.
But if you still want to deduct their marks, it's up to your discretion.
Okay. Otherwise, there's no rule, right? I mean, like.
Yeah, but because we stop them at the time only when they start exceeding, there's a timer which will be shown on the screen.
Okay.
So this, I hope you can see the timer.
There are tabs. There are tabs.
Sorry.
Are they tabs or like how would they know?
No. So can you see the timer on the screen?
Yeah, I can see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this will start when the moment the participant starts speaking, and it will go off when their time is over. So immediately after that, we stop there.
Okay. Great.
So Prosper sir and Sunil sir, should we begin?
Yeah, please.
The motion for today's final is test on animals. Should animal be used for scientific achievement? The first participant for the event is LC4 and you have to speak for the motion. You have 5 minutes for your time. Your time starts as soon as the timer is set.
Okay, is he muted?
Yes, LC4,
LC.
can you please LC4?
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
So on the count of 3, your timer will start. 1,
Sure.
2, 3.
Good afternoon. Today, I shall be speaking in favor of the motion. From the two dogs, Belka and Strelka, that paved the way for humans in space, research in cows, which helped create the world's first vaccine, which in turn helped end smallpox, studies with monkeys, dogs, and mice, which led to the polio vaccine, primates helping in research responsible for drugs used to combat cancer, HIV, Alzheimer's, hepatitis, and malaria, to Pavlov's dog, whose participation in experiments resulted in major psychological breakthrough. All these indispensable developments are a direct contribution of animal testing. Now, the reason behind the subsistence of animal testing in the 21st century is simple. Animals are biologically very similar to humans. In fact, mice share more than 98% of DNA with us. They are susceptible to many of the same diseases as humans, such as cancer, diabetes, heart diseases, etc. As a virtue of their shorter life cycles than humans, animal models can be studied across several generations, which is a critical element in understanding how a disease processes and how it interacts with the whole living biological system. Animal testing results in medical advances that benefit people and often benefit animals as well. Like people, animals receive vaccines against deadly diseases such as rabies and tetanus. More than 80 medications and vaccines developed for human beings using animal testing are now being used to help animals as well. Animal testing is a necessity, done only on the account of altruism, because nothing so far has been discovered that can be a substitute for the complex functions like those in the human body. Until such a discovery, animals must continue to play a critical role in helping researchers test potential new drugs, medical treatments, and new scientific discoveries. Today, a good example of this necessity would be the COVID-19 vaccine, something that is the need of the hour, needed for restoring normalcy globally. Studies have suggested that animal testing will irrevocably be needed because the coronavirus vaccines carry the risk of what is known as vaccine enhancement. Instead of protecting against the infection, the vaccine can actually make the disease worse when a vaccinated person is infected with the virus. To combat this complication, Animal testing is vital in further study of this phenomenon and the subsequent formation of a COVID vaccine. This view was also corroborated by Anthony Fauci, head of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, during a White House briefing. Moreover, animal testing is regulated by umpteenth laws and regulations around the world. The very such as number one, the very stringent Animal Scientific Procedures Act 1986 in the UK, the German Animal Welfare Act 1972, the laws for the humane treatment and management of animals 2005 by Japan, Animal Welfare Act of 1966, and the Animal Welfare Regulations by the US, to name a few. Additionally, to help minimize the harm animals may experience while being studied in the laboratories, researchers are required to follow a set of principles. The three R's. These are number one, replace. Replacing experiments using animals with alternative techniques if possible. Number two, reduce. Reducing the number of animals used. Number three, refine. Refining the way the animals are cared for to help minimize any stress or pain by using less invasive techniques, if possible, and improving medical care and living conditions. Meaning, animal testings are only done in cases where there is an absence of any other recourse. The scientists and researchers who work with laboratory animals are dedicated, compassionate professionals who want to heal and treat the diseases wherever it appears. Their work is strictly regulated, and no study is allowed to go forward if viable alternatives to using animals are available. Without animal testing, the prognosis for millions of people, not to mention animals, would be grim, with shorter life expectancies and a poorer quality of life. In conclusion, animals should be used for scientific achievement because they have abetted the human and societal developments of today and are vital for our existence in the immediate future due to the lack of functioning alternatives. Animal testing may not be the best, but it is the only way forward. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Now we have LC12. You have to speak against the motion for 5 minutes, and your time starts as soon as the timer is set.
Start. LC12, can you say something so that we know you're audible?
LC12.
Hello. Your video is
Hello.
not on, I suppose. Yes.
Yes, now
It
you're
is on.
audible.
Am I audible? Oh, there was
Yes,
a net
yes.
issue then.
Purva ma'am?
Yes. On the count of three, you may start. 1, 2, 3.
A very warm good afternoon to the judges and my learned co-opponent. Today
Sorry. Can you stop?
Okay.
Sorry. Start again. 1, 2, 3.
A very warm good afternoon to one and all. I'm LC12, virtually present before you to argue against the motion. Animal testing, a means for scientific advancement. Before I begin, I must say I am hurt and shocked by the visuals that I saw while researching on the topic. Those which visuals were incomprehensible. And to begin with the arguments, I will be discussing my arguments under different heads. To begin with the legal aspect of the issue, our courts in India have consistently upheld animal rights. Uttarakhand High Court, Haryana High Court, and in 2013, the Apex Court reiterated that humans not only have a right to life, they have a right to a dignified life. To support cruel and inhuman treatment of animals in the name of scientific advancement will not only be inconsistent with this legal jurisprudence, but it also be an act of jurisprudential hypocrisy. On the psychological front, why are animals considered as test subjects, research subjects? For the reason that they lack psychological capabilities as humans. If that's the case, why not we starting on insane persons, on fetus, on people who are considered under the IPC, what we have read, stupid or idiot? If the proponents of animal testing are agreeing that since the very reason, the very fact that animals do not possess psychological capabilities, we can test on them, then that argument would also go on to support human testing in certain cases. On the psychological, on the philosophical issue, the utilitarian theory that the end justifies the means would also indicate that we should test on humans and not on animals because we will have better results. We will be able to replicate the results on humans. The argument on animal testing always gets fumbled because on the issue of non-consenting humans. If non-consenting humans experiment is wrong, so is animal testing. We cannot consider them as means. They are end in themselves. They are part of the ecology. Furthermore, Tom Regan, one of an American philosopher, said that the problem is not the cruelty or the inhumane treatment. That is the secondary issue. The primary issue is that we are considering the existence, the well-being, and the welfare of an animal or a living organism is seen as a derivative of somebody else, of the result or the usefulness of that particular being in a research for which he is considered. This reduction of humans, this subjecting of humans to a lower pedestal of animals to a lower pedestal as compared to humans is inhumane in itself. On the ethical question, the question is never about necessity. Animal testing is not necessary. The question is whether animal testing is ethical. And we all agree that it is not ethical and it is not necessary for the reason that we have the alternatives. We have virtual simulations. The PETA has come up with a sin frog for dissection. We are not considering with rigor the other available options or the scientific developments to be considered in place of animal testing. We are merely sticking to the notion that yes, the only way forward is animal testing, and that in itself is not something which will come under scientific aptitude. Therefore, scientific research or achievement do not require subjecting animals to cruelty. Furthermore, if we look at another aspect of the issue, when talking about animals, we are talking about an ecology, an ecosystem of which the animals as well as the humans are a part of. To say that subjecting humans to inhuman treatment or torture or experiments, even willingly at times, is something which is unethical or against the morals. We'll go on to say that yes, animal testing is also unethical or against the morals. Those of us who were and are against the Nazi experiment, or the 300 humans who were termed as non-consenting humans, were against that particular experiment, not because they were subject to cruelty or inhuman treatment, but because those humans were not seen as end in themselves. They were seen as a means for doing something which may in the end benefit the humanity or the human being, but will not justify treating them as something lower than the others for whose benefit they were sacrificed. Therefore, it is my opinion, and it is my strong opinion, that animal testing should be banned. It should not be permitted for the reasons that we do not owe these animals. They are they are very much part of the ecosystem of which we are also a part. Necessity is not the criteria to judge the usefulness or the uselessness of an experiment. The question is on the ethical front. Are we empowered, not by virtue of our power physically or our mental capabilities, but by virtue of the system in which we exist? Are we on such a pedestal that we can say that, yes, we have power over the animals to subject them to such cruelty? That was my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I would like LC4 to use your 2 minutes for rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
So my worthy opponent talked about the question of animal beings ethical or not. To the point of ethics, a number of philosophers throughout history, such as John Locke, Plato, Aristotle, have observed the dominion of human beings over animals time and time again. Now, it is vital that we are not indifferent about the use of animals in research and take all the necessary precautions to avoid unnecessary plight. On the subject of alternatives, the fact of the matter remains that there are no functional alternatives to animal testing. There are alternatives, but they haven't been developed to the standard that would promote complete dependency on them. Something to think about is that animal testing can be quite expensive and resource intensive and time consuming. But the fact that we are still engaging in it globally means that it is inevitable. If the so-called alternatives were so beneficial and so much better than animal testing, then purely from a logical and financial standpoint, why would professionals around the world not stop resorting to using animal testing? Why would governments such as that of America sanction $16 billion annually to animal testing? This proves that although there may be better alternatives, They are not yet capable of practical use. As a result, the use of animals in scientific achievements is indispensable. We would have never attained the level of space development had we not conducted researches using apes and primates and dogs in order to comprehend the reaction of a living being in spatial conditions. The undisputable facts are that humanity would have never survived without vaccines and medicines for diabetes, AIDS, malaria, and all such infectious diseases. The need of the hour is animal testing. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I request LC12 to, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Okay.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
The question is what is. The question is never what is. The question is what ought to be. It's a normative query. We are not asking what is happening around the world. At a time, slavery was prominent across the globe, but that doesn't mean it was right. What we are talking and discussing is what ought to be. And what I suggest is that we should, instead of focusing on animal testing, should develop the alternatives. Why are the alternatives not developed? Because we are not considering the alternatives as an option. Furthermore, talking about animal testing, it is not effective. Mice cancer, we have been curing mice cancer for decades, but the results cannot be replicated on humans. If that is the case, if we are only talking about advancing humanity, why not test on humans? My query still stands, my query still remains. If we are talking about the benefits alone, let's test on humans. Let's test on dead inmates. They have nothing to lose. Simply because we are humans capable of arguing, capable of asserting our dominance over others, doesn't mean we have a superior position in the ecosystem. Furthermore, on the query of animal rights, right? You said that my worthy opponent, in fact, indulged in the debate that many animals have contributed to scientific developments. However, in the present time, we are talking about animal rights. And if we are talking about animal rights and upholding them in the courts of law, we cannot at the same time support animal cruelty in the name of scientific advancement, because that would again reek of hypocrisy, to say the least. Therefore, animal testing is not merely a question of alternative. It is a question of ethics. It's a question of morality. It's a question of humanity, to say the least. Animals are equal beings in the ecosystem. Animals deserve a place, and that is something which our jurisprudence, our Indian jurisprudence, is even pointing towards. Therefore, to deviate from the same would be going back to the same place where we were, where we serve dominance without any dialogue, without any consideration of alternatives and opinions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have the next team ready? Purva ma'am?
Joined.
Okay. The first participant is LC11. You have to speak for the motion. You have 5 minutes and your time starts as soon as the timer is set.
Okay.
I can't see him. Is this camera on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to give you the counter on the count of 3.
Okay,
1.
Purva
Ma'am,
ma'am,
time.
5.
5 minutes.
Okay.
हाँ मजा आया.
Purva ma'am.
Harsh, let me know when should I start.
Purva ma'am, you are on 4
Ma'am.
minutes. You have to put 5.
You have to change the time.
Okay. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Hi. I'm here to speak about whether animals should be used for scientific achievements, and I strongly believe they should be. Now let us get the premise of this correct. The premise is that since 500 BC, animals were used for testing purposes. Now, I'm not saying just because it was done for 2,500 years, it suddenly becomes okay to do it. No. But I'm saying if it was so wrong, in the last 2,500 years, people would have stopped it somewhere. And yes, there are many checks and balances. People have stopped certain things that are wrong. Now, the biggest preconceived misconception that everybody has about this debate is whether animals should be used for scientific achievement versus whether cruelty should be done to animals. Now, I am also a very strong proponent of don't do cruelty to animals. Animals have their rights. They have a right to a good life. Yes, absolutely. But now, what are the choices to us? They have the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. Now, this was since 1960. It criminalizes cruelty, only cruelty. And even then, the exceptions are of two kinds: animals who are used for food and animals who are used for scientific experiments. Now, let me tell you the benefits first. What would we not have if animals were not used for scientific achievements? We would not have a cure for big things like breast cancer, brain injury, childhood leukemia, multiple sclerosis. The list is endless. I can say TB, cancer, HIV. You would not have insulin for diabetics. You would not have antibiotics. And the biggest thing, vaccines. What we are clamoring right now, vaccines in the past, including TB and stuff that we have, would not be possible without animal trials. Even the instruments that are made, you think somebody just inserted a pacemaker into a human and said, Eureka, it works? No, it was tested on animals, cardiac valves, even anesthesia to put you to sleep, to have a painless operation. These all were done by animal testing. Now, I am just saying it helps to ensure safety of humans, because there are many animals very similar to humans. Like you would have known, chimpanzees share 99% DNA with humans. And the mouse, the ones we consider pest, they share 98% genetic material with humans. Now, let me tell you this. If an animal has rights, I agree. You should not be cruel, I agree. Do you have an alternate? And if you don't have an alternate, it is very easy for the person opposing me to have 100 case laws, because there is PETA and there is SPC and everybody is saying don't do stuff to animals. Yes, but here it is not a decision between good and bad. That is a very easy decision to make. Here is a decision between bad and worse. And that, my dear friends, is a contradiction that we have to live with. It's an irony of the situation. Now, what is the risk to humans if I don't have an animal trial? The risk to humans would be immense. Now, if I know that a particular drug has killed 20 animals, would I administer that to a human trial? No, I cannot even administer that to a bad human who is convicted of, say, rape or murder or something else, because they also have their rights. Fundamental rights are enshrined. Now, also, let's examine the future. Now, if I were to test something directly on humans, and my opponent would say, yeah, test them on humans. Okay. If I were to test them on humans, there are so many things I have to test. I test a drug today. Will you pass on the side effect to your next generation? How do I test that? Wait for you to get pregnant and get the next generation, and that the generation die, etc. Humans live for 70 to 80 years. A mouse lives for 2 years. I have to wait for 2 years to see whether genetically something is passed on or not. Now that is easy. Now I am saying, should it be human? Absolutely, it should be human. It should be used to find life-saving diseases. It should be used for finding those cures that really matter to humans. I am also with you if you say just for cosmetics and for a L'Oreal and for a skincare product or for a hair dye, don't rub it in the eye of a rabbit. Obviously, I'm with you. But to create a cure for, say, cancer, HIV, AIDS, all this, it's a no-brainer to think that an animal can be used. Yes, it's between bad and worse, I repeat. Now, of course, just to ensure that animals have their rights, do you know that animals are treated much more cruelly when they are bred for food? They don't have many rights, and the rights of animals who are bred for scientific purposes are a hell lot more. Let me tell you a few of them. If an animal is bred for research, a vet is required to examine. There is a company to approve research. The shelters have a minimum size. They cannot be clustered and crammed into a space. Now, let me leave you with one question. If your loved one was in a hospital and if there's no cure available, would you allow them to die because an animal was not allowed to be administered a drug that could potentially save their life, and so the drug is not released? Thank you.
Thank you. LC 15. Can we have LC 15?
LC, yeah. LC 15, can you just check? No. Can you speak a little louder?
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
On the count of
LC Okay. LC 15, you have to speak against the motion. You have 5 minutes. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Yeah. Thank you.
On the count of 3, your timer will start. 1, 2, 3.
As correctly said by a father of the nation, that the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way the animals are treated. As per a survey, 150 millions of animals are being tested every year, and only few of them are reported. My first very contention straight away is that it is immoral, it is unethical to use animals for testing. Who are we to test on them? Who are we to choose their right? If you go and ask them that, are you ready for the testing? What are they going to say? Yes, I'm ready. Only the reason they cannot speak and they cannot even express their views and the feelings they have, they should be considered as a consent they're giving for animal testing? No, not at all. Animal testing till now has not proved to be so beneficial. My second very contention is that animal testing is bad in science. There are other alternatives as well. Let me just give an example of some of the cases. In fact, many of the cases. Out of 100 tests, 95 tests have been found to be failed. Only there is torture. Only there is, a guy doing wrong things to the animals. Now there is a test called as the Daisy test. In this, what happens is that the animals, the substance which needs to be tested, have been put in the eyes of a rabbit. And what happens is that there is a probability, and there is that the rabbit may suffer from blindness and even die. We have the LD50 test, wherein continuously the substance which has to be tested is being injected to see the dosage test. Yeah, are we going to use the animals? We have become so superior to do so. The nature treats everyone equally. It's me, it's you, it's the animal. But we humans are so much of greed and selfishness to save our young ones, our loved ones. We can hurt them. My third very contention is that it is waste and unnecessary. We have other alternatives. Yeah, other alternative. If I am saying, my first and foremost contention in that is that the first thing is that there is a cell culture way, there is the organ on body way. In this is more accurate. From the tissue of the human, the organ is made, and on that reaction has been done and the test has been done. When we have so many other ways because of technology, we should stop. Let's take a commendable job done by the Indian government, that we have the brand Dove. In that we often come, that is India has made it not mandatory. In fact, it's banned the testing of Dove on animals and direct use. But what in China? They say that first you test the animal and then you give it to us. How far is that right? Even the WHO says that the 5 principle it recognizes. From that, the 4th and the 5th one is that animals should have freedom from distress, freedom from pain and injury. At the same time, we are doing animal testing. Let's take about legislation. My last very contention is the legislation. The rules, that is the Prevention of Cruelty Against Cruelty Animals Act 1960. In the 3rd chapter, it is talking about cruelty towards animal. And in the 4th chapter, very next chapter, is like, yeah, you can use it for experiment purpose. Experiment purpose is not going to give cruelty. Where there is a definition of cruelty, till now we have not found it for our own selves that what is the definition of cruelty, but we know what is the definition of animals for their cruelty. How far is that right? In one of the case laws, it was held by the Kerala High Court, that was N.R. Nair versus State of Kerala, wherein it was clearly said by the High Court that there is the fundamental rights should be even for the animals, and the wall that divides the humans and non-humans should be dismantled. When this is there, but we are so selfish that we are making such laws, but we are making sure that our need is being satisfied. How far is that right? Only we can speak, we can do everything, we do it. We have very alternative method. Now I'll just go to the COVID-19 example. It's AID and European organization who has filed a petition saying that why animal? Let's go to artificial. Animals can't get COVID-19. Why? My question is that not even question. My straightaway contention is that animals should not be used for testing, and we have no rights to use any natural resources, being it animals. Firstly, we are already destroyed our environment. We need not to destroy our animals, and I strongly say and disagree that animals should be tested.
Thank you. LC11, you have 2 minutes for rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
It's my turn, right, Levin?
I believe I'm supposed to give a rebuttal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Our worthy opponent has made quite a few points, most of them being on the emotional, sentimental, etc. level, and 1 or 2 case laws were cited. Now, let me tell you, when I prepared for this debate, I went through 156 case laws, both national and international. I couldn't find anything in my favor, but there were a few things that were exceptions. Let me quote the same case law that my opponent has cited. Naya versus Union of India was actually a case for the protection of circus animals, and certain animals like lion, tiger, elephant should not be used in a circus for entertainment purpose. Like that, there are many cases that come really close. So there was Animal Welfare Board versus A. Nagaraja, which prohibited Jallikattu, which was a well-known bull festival. Then there was UP versus Mustaqim that comes so close. It says even if you're breeding animals for eating, this is for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960, and my opponent said that it's allowed if it is for scientific purpose and if it is allowed for eating. Yes, but even then, cruelty is not allowed. I'm speaking in your favor now. In UP versus Mustaqim, it clearly said you're breeding animals for cruelty, treat them right. Yes, in the end, you're cutting them, killing them, they should be stunned, etc. Now, there was also a case of PETA versus Union of India, where even if you're taking animals for a feature film, NOC has to be taken from the Animal Welfare Board. Now, speaking of eating, I'm not talking about scientific research now, although that's the topic of the debate. Ozair Hussain versus Union of India was a landmark case in which people said we have a right to know what we are eating, etc., etc. So that green dot and red dot came into place. So now, let me tell you, this same life-threatening case faces us in COVID. If one of our loved ones was there in the hospital and the vaccine was not allowed to go through animals, and somebody said, can we try it and experiment it on your family who's healthy? Would you allow that? If you had a pet dog and a pet cat who was also family versus your parent, your sibling, your child, who would you rather put forth? Thank you.
Thank you. LC15, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttal.
Yes.
Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Yeah.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
As my learned friend, firstly, very much I want to point out that if 500 years before we didn't have any method and we used animal testing, are we still 500 years back? No, we have come to the age of technology. So we should use the alternative method. Secondly, the thing is that loved one, humans loved one. What about the other animals? Do they don't have loved ones? The contention made by my learned friend is surprising, and he's also talking on the basis of feeling. I'm talking about the facts. Let me give an example. Like, if you say that chimpanzee has 95% of sharing of DNA like us, we have a different lifestyle, and evolution changes everything. Aspirin that we usually use is very toxic to many animals. There are so many tests which are done on animals, and it has not proved any fruitful thing. My third very contention is that my my learned friend is talking about cruelty, and he's saying that if we breed it, we have that and we have this. Means you are saying somewhere that killing the animal is right. Who is giving you that right? Is nature giving you that right only because they can't speak and oppose? If today I tell you that take a disabled child and let's test on that to save 10,000 people, we'll have so many petitions in the court. What about animals? Only they can't speak, they cannot approach the court. We are going to, let their right just go away. Nature gives right to everyone equally. We shouldn't forget this thing. My learned counsel is citing case laws and basically telling that killing of animals in a very proper manner is right. Till now, are we able to find a proper sequence for euthanasia? No, we still are under ambiguity that whether really we have to active euthanasia should be followed or no, because we have right to life. But here in my learned friend is telling so many case laws saying that, oh yes, if we treat them properly, we have the right to do them. No, without your help also they can survive. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have the next team ready? LC21 and LC8.
Yes.
LC21, you will have to
One
speak
second.
for the motion.
LC21's mic is on. Yeah.
LC21, you have to speak for the motion. You have 5 minutes, and your time starts as soon as the timer is set.
Just a second. Just a second here. Just check the video. Am I seen here?
Yes.
Hello. Am I seen? Yeah, sure.
So on the count of 3, your timer will start. 1, 2, 3.
I will start by quoting Sir Franklin Roosevelt. If you have a method, try it. If it fails, accept it and try something else. But above all, do something. As an Indian citizen, it is a fundamental duty under 51AH to have a scientific temperament. Yes, dear jury members, very good afternoon. You got me right. My topic is animals should be used in scientific achievements. Now I'll go logically word by word. Animals, yeah. Actually, human beings are also animals, but we are not talking about that today. Should be used. That means should not be misused. Misuse means basically we should have a proper care and due respect and kindness should be shown to animals. There is also again mentioned in the fundamental duties 51A, G, as well as directive principles tell me the same. And various possible policies are there, which I'll discuss in later. Next comes the scientific scope. Scientific scope starts from basically biomedical research, clinical trials for drugs, from the basic product safety testing. Then we have defense, there is space and teaching. Though teaching basically it has gone down with the education rules, education regulation that come in 2014 and establishment of Medical College Act in 2013. In the teaching part, the use of medicines has gone down, as well as in cosmetics also has gone down with drug and cosmetic acts being implemented. Also, but in space, if you remember, the first animal to go in the space was fruit flies and followed by rhesus monkey. And in defense, basically, they also use for checking the weapons and the fire and ammunition. They are checking with the help of animals. Now I'll go with the help of achievements. Achievements are many. I will my time will be less to count the achievements. Start with few. Basically, there are 1 million insulin dependent patient. It won't be the invention of insulin was fantastic. Next was we could have 6 million deaths because of high BP, and which could have led to stroke and myocardial infarction, heart attacks, which have been treated with the help of medicines, with the help of clinical trials. Other is chemotherapy. 70% of the CLL and ALL leukemias basically have been cured in children with the help of chemotherapies. Organ transplant has been possible nowadays. So next is basically we have cataract surgeries, which have been already diagnosed with same. Even diseases of dogs and cats have been treated with the help of drug trials. Now, basically, agreed. Yeah, there are concerns with respect to this. The environment given to the patients, given to the animals, their food is not taken care of. There are unnecessary trials which have been done. The person are not trained properly. Agreed. I agree to all of them. But now there are rules for everything, and basically, also there are we have to and for that basically policy was made by UK in 1876. It is protection of cruelty against animals, and India followed in 1960. Next, we have people like Russell and Brush. They give us a 3R principle, which is to reduce, reduction, replacement, and refinement. It is reduction in number of animals used or use a lower scale animal. Refinement is using equipments which are basically giving less pain and sufferings to the animals during the trials. And replacement, if we can use tissue culture or cell culture to be there. And India used 2 more R's in that. Basically, it's reuse and rehabilitation of the patients are used in trials. Now, coming to the policies in what India has, basically, we have 2 important. One is basically the we have biological and experiments on breeding and experiments on animals, a rule that was brought in 1998, and other is the CPCCEA. That is basically it is a committee for purpose of supervision and care of and animals for use for experiments. This was in 2001 and I am in 2006. This gives a detailed rules of how to do a technical trials, starting from the environment they be used, even the floors what they use, what the type of food they be given, what is the training to be required. Even they use ethics committee to be established in the institution to giving a purpose of the trial and allowing the trial to be done. So these are the overall purview basically in which the things are being conducted. So at the end, I like to say the international guidelines also available. WHO guidelines are there. There is funds being raised for the medical replacements also are there. So at the end, I would like to say that experiments on animal always conquers as care for animals and science goes hands in hand. Thank you, sir. I like to address my case.
Thank you. LC8, you have to speak against the motion. You have 5 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
All right.
On the count of 3, your timer will start. 1,
Okay.
2, 3.
A very good afternoon to all. My code is 08, and I'm speaking against the motion that testing on animals for scientific experiments should not be done. I would like to deal with this topic with two perspectives, scientific perspective and ethical perspective. Firstly, let's deal with scientific perspective. Animals in itself are very poor subjects to perform experiments on. For example, even if they have a similar anatomy and biology as of humans, but a experiment conducted on the mice would not have the same effect on this conducted on a human who has a weight of 70 kgs. Obviously, there will be difference in the results in the test as well. Also, drugs that are actually passed by animals need not necessarily work for humans. For example, in the 1950s, there was a sleeping drug called as thalidomide, which was working extremely well for the animals. But when tested on humans, it caused 10,000 babies to be born with severe deformities. Thus, it concludes that we need to understand that every task done on animal does not necessarily need to work on humans. Similar is the case of vice versa. Every task done on human will not necessarily work on animals. Why am I saying this? Because this will mislead the researchers and scientists in ignoring potential cures and treatments. For example, the chemical of aspirin is extremely effective for human, but when the same is tested onto an animal, it is not effective. Intravenous vitamin C is extremely benefit for treating sepsis in humans, but the same is not benefited in animals. So when if we just focus on animal testing, researchers will not have a chance. They will rather ignore important phenomena and important cures for the same. Fourthly, I'd like to say that the difference between animal and a social animal human is that we humans are complex beings, whereas animals are simple complex beings. Does animal tests, we cannot rely on the results for the same. For example, according to a London study, 94% of the drugs that passed to animal tests have actually failed in the human clinical test. Secondly, according to a neurologist, there are over 100 drugs that have actually been worked on animals failed in humans miserably. We have already tried over 85 HIV vaccines which work effectively on animals but does not work on human. So what I'm trying to conclude over here is that no matter how much we try, this is not helping in scientific achievement. It is rather wasting our own time. It's a very expensive method. We are spending almost $12 billion every year on animal testing. We are wasting our money basically because we're not able to get anything out of, there's no product achievement. There's no, a cost benefit is very less for the same. Also, that most of the drugs that are injected into the animals are never, like 80% of them are never used in real scenarios. I like to bring with one of the most important thing as a human, the ethical perspective. The difference between a man and a human and an animal is that we have intellect. Yes, we have higher intellect. But what we are doing is showing intellectual property, right? Is showing any intellectual rights? No, we're not. Actually, the thing that we are doing is so grave, so gruesome in nature. So, inhuman treatment to animals, animals are starved for days for a mere experiment. They are not given food. They are overfed. They are deprived of sleep. They are given electric shocks. Their necks are broken just to see whether a medicine is working or not. Is this really what humans do? Is this really what intelligent beings do? I don't think so. But yes, we have as humans have developed a lot, so we have extremely good alternative methods which are cheaper, which are inexpensive, and which protect animals from being from the cruelty that we perform on them. For example, there is computer in silico modeling, there is in vitro techniques, there is microdosing, there is human organs on chips. The alternative techniques are ample. We shouldn't use something which we shouldn't now go on to old practices. It is time for us to actually use technology in its technological form so that we can have very great benefits. As Jeremy Bentham once said, it is not whether the animals can speak or not, it's whether that they can feel the pain or not. Yes, they cannot speak, but they do feel pain. So I would like to simply conclude by saying that we are intelligent people. So we should use intelligent techniques and not the old practices. So I would like to say by in simple manner that let's be the voices for the voiceless and keep working in technological manner and achieve great advances in science. Thank you very much.
Thank you. LC21, you have 2 minutes for rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
This is it. Yeah. Can you see me properly, dude?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
In present scenario where we have corona epidemic going on, are we all not waiting for a corona vaccine to come up? How will it come without trials being done? And we know that basically some trials are going on, some have failed also. Agreed, no doubt, I agree with that. But if we don't try, how will we get it? Number one. Number two, basically, it's not always like penicillin that something fell on something and it discovered. No, it has been invented. We have to work hard. We have to try and get it off. It is not always it will come to us and given to at a spoon feeding. No, we have to work hard. We might fail. I already quoted Franklin Roosevelt saying so. We have to try, and then we will succeed. Number one point. Number two, basically, as it has been also been told by former U.S. General Secretary of General Surgeon, that basically all major biological achievements on humans as well as animals have been achieved only via major trials which are done on animal models. Next, I would like to say that India is a place where we worship animals actually. So basically, we always honor them. But what animals are used for trials? We know that 90% of mice and rats and 10% other animals, basically monkeys and fish and cats and dogs. For mice, I would like to say a financial part, what my colleague was saying, that basically we have lost because of clinical trials. Mice in last 5 years has done a tremendous loss. 50,000 tons of grains has been lost because of mice, and that is the tremendous loss to India. Next, I would like to say I have a right to free, right to health also, and right to health means we have many diseases which still need cure, and for cure we need trials, and for that basically we have to try and succeed. Last but not the least, I will also like to say that we need to create public awareness for creating this kind of for animal proper usage in the trials, as well as we should also follow the ethical rules which have started being taught in the school days itself. Thank you.
Thank you. LC8, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttal.
I'm audible, right?
Yes.
All right.
You have 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Okay.
Purva ma'am.
I was on mute, sorry. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
As my learned friend has spoken about corona pandemic that we are facing, I think one fact he actually forgot to mention is that the US is in the third stage of vaccine. And let me bring the fact that the US has not used any vaccine on any animals because we do not have the time right now to use it on animals and then test it on humans. So they're directly being tested on humans right now. And why is this possible? Is because we're taking extra care right now. So with regards to the pandemic, that we don't have time to test it on animals and then the human, because if we do that, the situation will be very worse right now. We cannot afford to lose time on doing practices on animals. Secondly, my friend has spoken about with regards to so many laws. According to the Animal Welfare Act, only 4% of the animals are being protected to be tested. This gives us that a margin of more than 25 million animals are prone to be treated with cruelty and inhuman treatment. This is not something a good law. I don't think so. This is a good law that we can support of. And most importantly, I think at now, this is the 21st century. My friend has spoken about so much with so many beautiful thinkers and philosophers. But the truth is, in 21st century, are we really so lagging behind that we need animals to test upon any scientific experiments? No. Like I said, alternative methods are cheaper, are faster, are more reliable, and the results and the conclusive evidence are more reliant than that of animals. So yes, I'd like to simply conclude by saying that we should not waste time, money behind something which is so inhuman in nature and very illogical as well. We should rather use our intellect on the proper direction so that we can achieve great success in our science. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have the next team in the waiting room?
Yes.
LC20? Do we have LC20?
Yes. LC20, you can try and unmute yourself. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes. LC20, you have to speak for the motion. You have 5 minutes. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Okay.
On the count of three, you may begin. 1, 2, 3.
Good afternoon, all of you. I am LC20 and I am here to speak for the motion to the topic which has been raised in the House. That is, test on animals. Shall animals be used for scientific experiments or not? Now, before we further dwell into this topic, I would like to mention some of the points that why animal experimentation is necessary. This research on on animals or living beings has been conducted since 500 BC. It is not a new term, and it is in this time that 70% of the Nobel Prizes has been achieved on physiology because of animal experimentation. Animal experimentation is used for coming out with the treatments of those diseases and to check the toxicity of the drugs before we further give it to the human. Now, most of the proponents of animal experimentations believe that some of the major life curing treatments have been given by this process. We can take the example from the California Biomedical Research Association, which believes that medical breakthrough over the past 100 years is achieved because of animal experimentation. They have been used to come up with a treatment of such severe diseases like cancer, HIVs. They have also used for made antibiotics, insulins, which is very protective and very important for the nation. They have also made it very important for the scientists to understand and their improvement, their knowledge about the human health and their biology. Also, I would like to point out with my second clause that why they are the only alternatives to be used in experimentation is because they are very well similar to that of humans. We can take the example of chimpanzees, those who share 99% of their DNAs with human, and mice, those who share 98% of their DNA with human. They are susceptible to the same conditions. Their metabolical activities, their cellular activities are same. They respond to the same drug in the same way. Also, I would like to point out here is because of their less lifetime or lifespan, they are used in this experimentation procedure. Like we can take the example of laboratory mice, which live only for 2 years, and it is the best example used for cancer treatments. Also, I would like to point out that why tests are only conducted for on animals for scientific achievement, because no other organism can develop the full body system scan than other than of animals, and even the superpower computers or technology cannot stimulate the working of human brain, which has 100 billions of nerve cells. We can't even think of using humans as an experimentation subjects because no human would voluntarily come out of their houses that they are wanting themselves to get involved in this process. Also, I would like to mention in my third clause that all the implementation procedures which has been done by the government, starting from the local to the global level, from the local levels or guidelines, there is also federal Animal Welfare Protection Act 1966. All the experimentations which has to be conducted on animals should be approved by IACUC, which is set up by each research facilities. Also in India, there are several reforms and laws formed in order to prevent this mistreatment of animals and to protect them from unnecessary pain and suffering. The example of such is Wildlife Protection Act, which prevent animals from unnecessary trade and smuggling. And the Prevention of Protection of Animal Cruelty Act, which protect them from unnecessary pain and suffering. There is Breeding and Supervision Act. There is also Drug and Cosmetic Act, which will ban all the experiments used for cosmetics. Now, I would also like to point out that it will restrict this area of experimentation, that it will hardly restrict our knowledge and development to come up with the treatments those who need it, and the world needs it. Now we can take the example of COVID-19 pandemic. No country of the world has come up with the vaccine in this time, and it is in Maharashtra. There recent times the capturing of 30 monkeys have been approved by Maharashtra government in order to come up with the vaccine. I would also like to point out one point. Then often people say that it is very cruel or inhuman treatment, but it is with this the earth and India is medaled with so many medals and feathers in their cap because of scientific achievements on animal experimentation. Most of the 2.5 billion animals are being consumed in USA, and it is 700 times more than they are being used in animal experimentation. What about their humanity? Thank you so much.
Thank you. LC26.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes. You have 5 minutes to speak against the motion.
Okay.
Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
Okay.
On the
Purva ma'am?
count of three, your timer will start. One,
Yes, ma'am.
2, 3.
A very good evening to everybody. I'd like to begin with telling you guys that this is a very, very debatable topic. However, I stand strongly against the agenda for today. Should animals be used for scientific achievements? A big fat no. They're burned, they're maimed, they're shot, they're poisoned, they're isolated, they're starved, they're forcibly restrained, they're addicted to drugs, and they're brain damaged. And anyway, they're killed afterwards. No procedure, no matter how pointless, painless, should be prohibited by law, and that is what I stand against today. Now, I will not bore you with any kind of ethical or emotional arguments. I will only be bringing to you facts, statistics, and legal and statutory provisions. Now, there are a few statistics that I would like to mention first. The first is that less than 2% of human illnesses, which is an approximate of 1.16, are ever seen in animals, and over 98% animals, 98% of these diseases never affect animals. The second is 92% of drugs which are tested on these animals immediately fail when they're tried on these animals because they're useless, they're dangerous, or they're both. The third is that the two most important and common illnesses, especially in India, which is lung cancer as well as respiratory diseases, along with a few heart diseases, neither can be responded in lab animals. The last is that rats, as mentioned by my very worthy opponent, only 37% effective. The rats are only 37% effective in identifying any kind of diseases that causes, especially like cancer, which is being treated in India, which is less than 50%. That means you could just flip a coin instead of taking a rat into the laboratory and harassing the poor thing. Now, I will bring to you a few facts about COVID and the situation going on right now. As my worthy opponent again mentioned that there has been no volunteers, I'm really sorry to correct my friend and I can WhatsApp a report to you along with facts. It's a report of May 2020, which says that 14,000 volunteers have come up to volunteer for a vaccine and treatment and experimentation for the COVID virus. That means humanity is yet not dead. Now, I will be bringing to you a few legal issues and a few statutory provisions. The first is the law that's governing the country, India, right now, which is called the Prevention of Cruelty and Animals Act of 1960, which is also called the PCA Act. Chapter 4 of this act, sir, forms and confers the power to the PCA to prevent any pain or suffering that goes on during experimentation of these animals. Now, again, Amendment 2001 and Amendment 2006 of the Breeding of and Experiments on Animals Control and Supervision Rules of 1998 adds, amongst other things, the specifications of what experimenters should not consider be doing, even to animals of the lowest psychological scale. Now, one more statutory provision is that there are the drugs and cosmetics rules. I will not be talking about that a lot because it is not a scientific experiment. This has also referred Asia, and the entire country in India has completely banned any kind of cosmetic experiments, and also the import and export of such experiments. The last is the educational amendment rules, which are used for scientific research. These are rules based in 2014 May. Under this, the Pharmacy Council of India had banned the use of animals for the purpose of pharmacy solutions at all. Now, I'd like to come to a few alternate experiments, which is a very popular argument with a lot of protesters for the animal rights. Now, when we talk about scientific research, there is something called the human serum research. There is also something called the human tissue-based method. Now, there is a man called Wax Design, whose modular immune system, which is the in vitro construct system, uses human cells to create a working dime-sized human immune system for testing vaccines. This has also been used in the US for COVID vaccines presently. Also, Harvard researchers for this particular method have also developed a human tissue-based lung on a chip that can breathe and be used to estimate the effects of these inhaled chemicals on the human respiratory system. Also, there is another alternate that has come up in Colombia, which has also been emulated in Jipmer in Pondicherry in India, which has developed something called the X-Palm Blank CD. Now, this CD has been specifically prepared as 100% replacement in animals, which are used in undergraduate courses for medicine and other kind of scientific research problems. Now, more recently, also in 2011, the University Grants Commissions issued guidelines to completely phase out dissection of and experimentation of live animals on camera or otherwise in classes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
LC20. LC20, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Your time will start as soon as the timer is set.
1 minute. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
I'm going to use a pen to take this down. I hope that's okay.
No issues.
On the count of 3, your timer will start. 1, 2, 3.
So, as my worthy opponent has mentioned that the animals are being burned or they have been suffered from unnecessary pain and suffering, and there are being several alternatives which should be used. So, I would like to point out that no other human organism or body can be effectively used as that of animals in conducting out these experiments. Moreover, the laws are these animals are being regulated by laws, and no animal can be experimented before they are being approved by the biggest organization or international communities like IACOC, which is being used for research facilities. There are hundreds of experienced scientists and veterinarians, those who are there who will ensure their health, their safety measures, and that is why the law is being the legislature has been made the law. So I on very positive terms stand again for this notion and against the notion that there should be any alternatives should be used. And also my worthy opponent has mentioned that volunteers have been come out. So I'm not only talking about COVID test, or not only I'm talking about any other diseases which has been coming over these years. Also, the other diseases which are very harmful and which cannot be treated without the experimentations on animals, like vaccines, like antibiotics, like insulin. And what about these? And even talking about COVID-19, hundreds of volunteers and 40,000 of volunteers, as she has said, may come. But what is the use of it? It is of no use, because till now, till date, no world or no country has come up with the vaccine of this virus. And that is because Maharashtra government and many of the USA and UK organizations are working on the experimentations on animals. Thank you.
Thank you. LC26, you have 2 minutes for your
LC5.
rebuttal.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay.
On the count of three.
Can you hear me?
Yes. On the count of three, hello. Your timer will start. I think her video got stuck.
Yeah, her video is stuck. LC26. LC26, can you hear us?
She's still in the meeting.
She's there. She's there. Can we put?
Yes,
Can
ma'am,
we?
she's in the meeting.
Uh,
Just mute, unmute her.
yeah. Or we can just put it in the chat also that she's not heard. No, I have no control. She has left. 1 second, okay?
We can take a short break till she joins in. The judges can total their marks till then.
Yeah, but we just hope that she's not buying time or preparing an argument and consolation from today. Anyway,
Sorry.
there could be technical issues also.
Yes, Professor, she got logged out, so we're admitting her in. She got
Okay, okay.
logged off the
Yeah.
platform. You can take that into consideration. So,
Yeah.
LC26, can you hear us?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's a network issue. I was trying to fix it.
So on the count, are you ready? On the count of two or three, your timer will start.
Yes, ma'am.
1, 2, 3.
I would like to appreciate my worthy opponent for these points put up, but I would like to say that all of them can be countered very easily. The first is, ma'am said how COVID is of no use and people coming up for how people coming up for volunteering is of no use. I'm sorry to say, ma'am, a pandemic as huge and as mammoth as this is, if people are coming in thousands, and 14,000 is a massive number. If people are coming in to be volunteers for a pandemic as huge and feared as this one, then I'm sure people are. I don't have the permission to access my net. Otherwise, I would have come up with statistics to tell you how many volunteers have volunteered for other kind of diseases also. Second is how ma'am said that there are scientists who are working on trying to maintain basic criteria. However, that's very wrong. I would like to bring a report of May 2019, which is in JIPMER in Pondicherry again. Ma'am, here's the Cruelty of Prevention Against Animals Committee report was brought forward, and they said that 712 colleges have been inspected, surprisingly inspected, and out of that, 623 were not adhering to the criminal and prevention of cruelty against rules and regulations that have been set up by the government. So it's very easy to say that there are people working on it, but it's very difficult to implement them. And once the damage is done to these animals, I don't think anything can go against this. The third is you're saying that a lot of monkeys have been taken in US, etc. That has been condemned, ma'am. A wrong that has happened doesn't make it right. There was another report by the European Union in 2018, which has barred and banned all apes and all chimpanzees from being tested at all, which means a lot of animals are being completely adhered and abominated to be tested in these trying times. So all these arguments are very frail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here we come to an end of all the participants. I would like to hand it over to my friend Anuj. Can we have Anuj unmuted?
Okay. Yeah. Anuj, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Harsh. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our first judge for the day, Advocate Prosper D'Souza. Sir, we welcome you and thank you so much. Advocate Prosper D'Souza, BA LLM DLL Honors, is an advocate practicing in the Bombay High Court. Sir has been practicing advocacy for the last 20 years while also being a mediator and arbitrator in the Honorable High Court of Bombay. So, is also a visiting faculty in many law colleges and management schools and has authored 2 law books. So, I would kindly request you to say a few words and give your opinion on today's event.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for introducing me and saying those few nice words about me. Uh, Ever since I've been told to be a judge on this competition, I was wondering what feedback I should give or what all things the participants and the others may want to hear. And I'm just trying to note down a few things. I felt it would be necessary for the participants to always remember on what criteria they are being judged. Also, it would have been nice if they were to always have some format for presenting their matter. Format as in something you go on the YouTube and all you'll find. Some of the formats will tell you to have 5 steps like introduction, statement of fact, confirmation of proof, refutation, and conclusion. May not be strictly what I'm saying, but something of your own, whereby you go in a structured manner, because that also is one of the criteria on which you are judged. Of course, the ultimate criteria will be the overall impact that you create. Also, it would be nice to know what a debate is all about, what the word debate means, and what is expected of you as a participant. If you are in competition, then what are things you should be saying and what are things you should be refraining from saying. Now you should conduct yourself. How articulate, how there should be some voice modulation and clarity of thoughts. All those things you'll have to keep in mind. Also, as I said the other day, you're being law students. It would be nice to have some points pertaining to law. Not that few participants did not mention any law at all, but some of them just made a passing mention of the law without actually saying why are they mentioning that, or highlighting at least one point about that law, whereby it would be worthwhile mentioning that particular legislation. I would have preferred somebody to say a little more on that because you are a law students. Also, hardly anybody has touched upon the Constitution, though there are provisions in the Constitution. I'm just not referring to the duties mentioned in the Constitution, that is 51A. Also, the other provisions, the Schedule 7, and the powers given to the state, and what is mentioned in the concurrent list, the duties cast, and the laws that can be made with regard to certain items. I wish there was a mention of that. I wish there was a mention of uh, Article 48A and certain items of the concurrent list, 17, 17A, 17B, and so on and so forth. Then also, it would have been nice to have you all mention some forums that are available in case of cruelty, in case of some violation of any laws, rules, regulation. I found most of you all were referring to foreign laws. That's good. That's what it should be. But emphasis should also be, or rather, what is the scenario or what are the laws prevailing in India? That should have been highlighted, whether they are adequate, whether we need to adopt some laws which are prevailing in the foreign countries. It would have been worthwhile mentioning, making a mention of that. Uh, in fact, I've noted some points for each participant, but that would take very long. But generally, if I have to say, uh, number of participants brought out many points very well, but it was all about, saying things too fast. I would rather that someone not says too many things, but says whatever little one has to, or whatever one says, in a very proper manner and very explicit manner and in a very structured manner, and with a lot of clarity, so that they get across and they make an impact. Otherwise, just providing statistics, uh, I don't think it is making the real impact and may not fetch you the first place or second place or whatever that you're looking forward to. Uh, I will not go uh, participant wise, but I found that in the rebuttal also some of the participants skirted the main issues. They did not rebut at all, in fact. They did not rebut or did not respond. They did not react to what the other person had to say. So nothing of the sort. Each one had come with prepared with his own stuff, and that is what they vomited. That is what they spelt out. They got across, and they are done with it. I don't think debate is all about that. A lot of reasoning has to be there, logic has to be
Hello?
there, and you have to counter the other person's point. That really did not happen uh, in case of some of the participants. Uh, Also, I don't know, to my knowledge, already in India, in fact, somewhere in Bombay itself, there are laboratories which are carrying out experiments on human beings already, not with regard to this COVID, but since long. And they are within law that they are doing it. But there was no mention of that. Of course, towards the end, one did mention about those 14,000 volunteers coming forward for getting tested for the COVID purpose. That was good information. That shows that you're politically, socially aware, and you're updated. That really uh, uh, gives you an added point. Then few of y'all, I found one of the participants quoting, giving citations left and right. But rather, I would have, as I said earlier, making that point, making that dent, using it truthfully to say what you have to. There were repetition, but it does happen in the flow. That is understandable. Then also, uh, there were very pertinent points made with regard to, I don't know how come none of you all felt of bringing up this point, whether human beings are superior and they should be considered as superior, and therefore they have that superior right and the dominant right, and they can do what they want with animals. That kind of argument, I didn't see that argument coming forward, though that is crossing my mind. But I wish there was something to that effect. And uh, in as much as these fundamental rights and all, they're available for human beings, but are they available to the animals also, and to what extent? Maybe one could have brought out that in a very proper, elaborate manner. Uh, as the arguments went on, I find that there were good quotations. What I find perhaps thought was not given to this, that how should one begin and how should one conclude. Somebody did keep this in mind, the concluding part to make an impact. They quoted someone. Some of you all did begin very well. It really, really matters how one begins, how one ends. Also, the in-between matter, the contents also does matter. But the impact that one leaves, does it leave someone with a thought, something to ponder over? That also matters. Maybe care could have been taken about that as well. Uh, of course, you'll have all reached finals and you'll have outsmarted your opponents in the earlier rounds. That itself shows that you'll are far better than your many other colleagues, many other earlier opponents. And uh, you'll are very good at what you'll have been doing. Whatever negative I may have said, that was not meant to underestimate or downplay or not appreciate what you'll have already displayed by way of talent. That was just, I thought it may be of some help, because the general trend is just to appreciate, appreciate, and appreciate, and whereby the negative points are never brought out. Also, I feel the best way to know how to improve or why I lost or why I won is to reflect upon one's own presentation, and have that self-talk and see for yourself whether I could have improved in some area. And I'm sure each one will come up with better answers as to whether there is a scope for improvement or not, or whether instead of being the best, I was not chosen as the best. And then you could maybe criticize the judges. I leave it to you all. I don't know whether I've spoken much. Uh, there's my colleague also, Dr. Sunil George, who may have to add a number of things. if at all something comes to my mind which may seem very important, which I may have left out, I may add after the Dr. Sunil George speaks. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I forget to thank Principal Ma'am, Dr. Priya Shah, and the organizers. They have been on this round since last couple of days continuously, and I really appreciate, and also the students who don't fail to take my name whenever I'm around watching the other competitions. Thank you, Harsha, and so many others who have compared this earlier competition. Thank you, Navnita ma'am. Thank you, the other faculty, Sushma ma'am, and Sneha ma'am, and also I hope I don't forget anybody's name. There's what is that? Digay ma'am, Purva Digay ma'am, and Shlok Bolas also, others also. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody. Madhulika ma'am, I can see you also. Thank you so much. Yeah. Dr. Sunil George, I think after he introduces you, he may give you an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm pretty sure all the participants would have taken your feedback pretty well and have gone inculcate it over time. And we might see those results in our future competitions. Now, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our second judge, Dr. Sunil George. Sir is an assistant professor and an area chairperson LLM. Sir has done his PhD in law and LLM in criminal law and human rights, LLB, BA economics, NET law, and SET. Sir's area of specialization include contract law, company, criminal law, and human rights. Sir has more than 14 years of experience in the corporate field and more than 9 years of experience of academics under his belt. Sir currently is a full-time faculty in NIMS Kirti Mehta School of Law and is a visiting faculty for NIMS School of Business and NIMS School of Commerce. Sir has also published a book titled Economics, which is a reference book for 5 years law course for Mumbai University, published by C. Jamnadas and Co. Sir has also published a few papers such as Achieving Gender Justice in India, while special reference to women, A Fair Deal of Women at Workplace, The Political Economy and Environment Protection in India, The Desirability of Uniform Civil Code in India. Sir has a vast experience, and I'm pretty sure Sir has a few words to say also. So, to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a very generous introduction. First of all, I would like to kind of, really appreciate this virtual kind of, fest which Jitendra Chavan College has organized. I'm sure you are the pioneers and definitely for doing this. I think probably none of the law colleges across the length and breadth of the country has been able to do this. So congratulations to Priya ma'am, to Sushma ma'am, Navnita ma'am, to Sneha ma'am, all other professors, and especially the student council for organizing this. So it's really, a feather in your cap. So keep it up. So and congratulations for that. Now coming to some of the points which kind of I wanted to make. First, what happens is like as lawyers, most of the time we do not get a choice of our client, but we kind of have to justify our client. We have to do our best with respect to our client. Similarly, when it comes to a debate competition, it could be quite possible that we are speaking exactly opposite of what we think. Okay, so we might be pro something, but we are speaking anti something, but then we have to justify. Emotions definitely do not stand either in a court of law nor in a debate competition. So, I saw that some students kind of, were slightly on the emotional mode. Emotions kind of, do not help. Okay. Now, statistics are good. Statistics are definitely good. But statistics do not always mean that just because you have the numbers that everything is correct. Okay. For example, like one of the participants, I remember, I do not know, I don't remember who, said that it is not important what it is, but rather what ought to be. And that is exactly why, like as torch bearers of justice, whether it is kind of, academicians or whether it's kind of, people who are practicing, we as lawyers are supposed to do. And that is exactly what So statistics helps, but just because it is being practiced all over the world, it doesn't mean that it is a correct thing to do. That's second. Now, I would agree with Prosper sir, where I was also looking out for some of the provisions with respect to constitution, the directive principles, the fundamental rights. which did not happen. But then, kind of, whatever the students spoke, they spoke well. The arguments were structured. Uh, I mean, I think they've done a lot of preparation. Now, rebuttals, kind of, I had a problem with rebuttals because rebuttal normally is a point to point rebuttal, wherein kind of, you directly kind of, rebut what the other person has spoken. Now, instead of doing that, I found that, like people were trying to put just their points across. Now, also there could have been a comparative analysis of the laws which deal with kind of human beings and laws with animals. Now also I think one of the point which kind of especially those who spoke against the motion could have brought was that these laws, whether it's laws to kind of protect animals, are made by human beings themselves. So there is an inherent bias. Okay, so we decide what is good for animals. I mean, they do not have a voice there also. Okay, so yeah, I'm not saying that that means anything. Okay, so these are the points which I think you should have kind of brought in. But yes, the last 1 hour, 1.5 hours has been really good. I mean, listening to all of you, the very good points which most of you made. Okay, so keep it up and all the best. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsh. I'm very sure each participant would appreciate those valuable feedbacks you have given them and will definitely inculcate those them in the coming events. Now, I would also like to thank Madhulika ma'am and Meenal ma'am for joining us during this event. And so we are honored by your presence for the very event. Now, I would like to hand it over to Mohit to take us forward.
Mohit, can you try?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
And am I visible as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a pleasure to organize Jitendra Chauhan College of Law's first ever online law fest, LexConnect. Over the last 3 days, we had a total participation of 30 students for our debate competition in the knockout round. And out of those 30, 16 were qualified for the semi-final. And finally, 8 of them were qualified for the final round. Now, as a student coordinator who is heading the debate competition, I would just like to share with you all my experience in brief. The past few days had been really crazy for me, but the past 3 days were more crazier, which also brings me to a question for all the participants as to how are you so productive during this lockdown? Because if I were in your place, then I really don't think I would, if I would have been able to present such amazing debating skills. And also, a big thank you to all the faculty members and student volunteers for helping me out with the execution of this event, because had it not been for them, it would have been next to impossible for me to carry or execute it. Now, over these days, we got to hear some amazing arguments along with some amazing facts. This would have not been possible without the support of our principal, Dr. Priya Shah ma'am, our judges, Advocate Raju Shah sir, Advocate Saraswati Dev ma'am, Advocate Mario Sequeira sir, Advocate Madhulika Mundra ma'am, Advocate Dr. Sunil George sir, and Advocate Prosper D'Souza sir. Our faculty members, professors, Sushma ma'am, Navneeta ma'am, Purva ma'am, and Sneha ma'am, and obviously all our student volunteers, some of whom you may have not seen on your screen but have contributed in a big way, starting with Urja Doshi, Rajvi Dedia, Drashti Verma, Shagun Tiwari, Pushpam Mishra, Aranya Shah, Akash Shah, Anuj Walia, Harsh Shah, and Shlok Bodhis. And obviously, of course, I mean, last but not the least, a big thank you to all the participants. And a special thanks to Advocate Madhulika ma'am, Advocate Raja Dyak sir, and Advocate Prosper sir for being a part of every event of ours. So once again, I thank each and every one of you for being a part of Let's Connect, and we truly hope to see you all in our future events as well. Thank you.
To the participants, the results would be announced on your WhatsApp group shortly. Thank you.
Purva, can we have a photo shoot? So if you stop sharing the screen, we'll get the
Yeah.
grid.
Yes. I request all the participants to switch on their cameras.
Mohit, I guess you'll get the screenshot.
LC11, could you please switch on your camera?
Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Done. We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have Madhulika ma'am unmuted?
Yeah, 1 second. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself. Yeah. Ma'am, haha, Sunil sir, Matulika ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. Tell me.
So, it's a great pleasure to see you. Judging and seeing for all the events together, Meenal ma'am, all these.
Yes, ma'am.
Sneha, and I was waiting for to say hello to Sunil sir, basically. Yes, sir. And thank you for the appreciation you gave me for that webinar, sir. Thanks a lot.
It was really nice, ma'am. I mean, you deserve the appreciation.
Thank you, sir, for having liked it. And it's a learning for me. So it was a pleasure. And this event too was like very beautifully done, conducted, organized by these young college